My name is Joel Cope, and I want to welcome you to our community forum tonight with Commissioner Monique Sheffield. We think you'll find this to be both an interesting and informative area of discussion. This forum is being organized by our partners, the Austell Community Task Force and the Powder Springs Community Task Force, as well as the Mableton Improvement Coalition, for which I serve as president. And I want to thank each of them for their friendship and community mindedness. In particular, I'd like to thank Commissioner Sheffield, who has agreed to be part of tonight's forum. As you know, Commissioner Sheffield serves Commission District 4 within Cobb County and was elected to this position in the year 2020. Commissioner Sheffield will be speaking this evening about her first year in office, its challenges and triumphs, her thoughts about the progress within the district, and her vision for 2022, amongst other topics. I also would like to thank you, the listening audience, whether you're on Zoom or Facebook, for caring enough to be part of this discussion this evening. As you know, at the time that you registered for this forum, you had the opportunity to submit a question for the commissioner to be asked. We received many fine questions. We do not want any of our viewing members in the audience to leave this forum upset or distressed if in some way your questions do not get to be asked. Due to the limited amount of time that we have, we may not be able to reach each one of these questions that's been submitted, but we simply wanted to put this disclaimer out there to you. Now, speaking for the Mableton Improvement Coalition, it is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization with 11 board members, and MIC has existed since the year 2001. Today, we're involved in a whole host of subject areas, including but not limited to zoning, community gardening, parks, the Mableton Farmers Market, neighborhood watches, economic development, adopt a mile, and many, many other areas of interest that serve our community. And I cannot stress enough that MIC accomplishes all that it does without any paid staff or headquarters and depends entirely upon the work of its volunteer base. We would like to thank all of our corporate sponsors for their continued support of our organization. Now, please join our organization. We ask that because we mentioned there's strength in numbers. Now, our chair, Ray Thomas, would like to say a few words to our audience this evening about our organization and some upcoming events. Ray?
Thank you, Joel. I really appreciate that. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for taking time out to join us this evening for this very important forum. I'd like to thank Commissioner Sheffield for taking time out to share with the community today. Also like to thank our board members, the panelists, and our membership who were the reason why we've been able to exist for so long. And I also like to pay, on behalf of the Mableton Improvement Coalition, I'd like to pay our respects to former Cobb County Chairman Mike Boyce, who was on untimely death, occurred this week. And so we offer our condolences to Mike's family, and may he rest in peace. As far as upcoming event, we have a very exciting event coming up this evening. On April the 2nd, 2022. It's called the first annual Taste of Mapleton. We are looking to, with that program, to showcase many of the positive aspects of our community, some of which you all are aware of, and some of which you may not be aware of. And so we are going to, we're inviting various aspects of our community, including our churches, our schools, our public safety, as well as the members of the community. And so we ask that you all save this date, April 2nd, 2022, to join us at the Taste of Mableton. I've been very surprised at how receptive so far the community has been, and even though we haven't really gone out yet and done a lot of promotion of this event, that's coming. Our media plan is being prepared right now, and so but we ask that you come out and participate. We're going to have just about every aspect of our community showcased on that day. Maxine Wilson and her team have been very diligent, have been working very, very hard to execute on Maxine's vision for the Taste of Mableton. We are looking for sponsors And I have to say that so far our sponsors have responded, and but we're looking for more. And we're also looking for volunteers. So if you're interested, please sign up. We're going to put in the chat where you can go and sign up. And as you can see on your screen, you see the flyer that's being sent out through social media. And so with that, I'd just like to say thank you all for supporting us. This year is going to be a very exciting year despite the pandemic. Last year was a very, very good year. We accomplished quite a bit, and we'll also post our annual statement so that you can go and take a look at it. We don't have time tonight to go over all the things that have been accomplished last year. So anyway, thank you all very much, and look forward to a very informative session tonight.
All right. Well, I'd like to turn to Dante Philpott for the Austell Community Task Force.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My name is Dante Philpott. I'm here representing Austell Community Task Force, or as we are affectionately known as ACT. And just a couple points about ACT is we are a resident-led community-based organization here in Cobb County, and we were founded in 2001. And realistically, our purpose is to systematically identify, connect, develop, and leverage resources within the community for a sustainable future. So ACT membership is actually comprised of residents and businesses, both large and small, faith groups, as well as safety officials. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is collaborative partnerships that exist with local business associations and also government agencies. And just so you guys know, ACT, it was created as a membership organization to essentially enable residents and different organizations to discuss solutions to problems that may challenge the quality of life. And we're also here to develop strategies to cope with them. So just a couple of different areas of our focus. So there's quite a few that we look at, but we have community development, economic development, family and youth development, educational development, justice for all, and that's just a few of them. So a couple of our signature events that you may have seen around the community or heard about, or you may have the opportunity to participate in the future, is Toys for Tots. Our back to school jam every year where we're collecting and donating school supplies for kids. Also the MLK Day, and that's just to name a couple. So just as a shameless plug, if you are out there and if you are interested in finding out more, you can always go to the website, which is austelltaskforce.org. You can also email us at austellcommunitytaskforce@gmail.com. And of course, in 2022, you can also find us on social media, where you on Facebook, I should say, and just look us up at Austell Community Task Force, and you can like our page and continue to follow breaking news there on our social media page. So I'll turn it back over to you, Joel.
Great, thanks so much. All right, and the leader of the Powder Springs Community Task Force is Elliot Hennington. Elliot.
Yes, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Ray and Dante, and special thanks to Commissioner Sheffield, and also our condolences go out to ex-Chairman Boyce, and our prayers go out with his family. Again, very much sorry loss, but tremendous loss. But yes, I chair the Powder Springs Community Task Force. We're here in Powder Springs. We was also founded in 2001. Our vision is that to integrate team and concerned and caring citizens, partner with schools, civic groups, community, business leaders, developing tangible solutions and opportunities to support resources which enhance the quality of life in Powder Springs. Mission: to create and maintain collaborative effort that empowers families, strengthens communities, and engage youth to commit in making a difference to communities and allowing all lives limitless opportunities. The task force is Powder Springs Task Force is a community prevent based on developing collective for the area. The task force members' prioritization is the prevention and needs to select three most critical, important areas of focus. That these three areas are: alternative activities for youth to increase the availability of after-school and weekend activities youth in Powder Springs community. Support the schools to increase community schools and participate for academic programs and school improvement initiatives and faculty and staff teams at middle schools and in elementary schools. The enable community attachment organizations to increase levels of neighborhood organizations and promote community integration and involvement. And also some of our activities, like Dante also saying, we have an annual back to school bash. We have a Giving Hopes for Holidays. We host candidate forums. We work with town hall meetings, developers, a lot of things. And again, we are based, just volunteers. We're doing this because we serve the community, just want to give back, and we just want to make sure that this community thrive and move forward in a positive direction. So again, that's the Powder Springs Task Force here in Powder Springs, and welcome. Thank you. Look forward to our informative meeting with Commissioner Sheffield.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, at this point, our featured speaker, of course, is Commissioner Monique Sheffield, and we're obviously delighted to have her with us this evening. And I believe she has a presentation first, and then we'll be following up with questions and answers. Commissioner?
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate all of the work that you guys have put in to make this event happen tonight. And also, although I cannot see all of the participant or the audience, the attendees, I thank you for spending part of your evening with us this evening tonight. I do have a presentation and I am going to attempt to share this. Okay, share screen, just give me a minute here. Okay, how's that looking? Can you guys see that? We're good to go? Okay, fantastic. Well, let's get started. We have a chock full of information to share this evening. Let me just move my screen, my view. You handsome gentlemen are blocking my view. So let me just, I don't want to have your face next to my development slide that has a bunch of dirt on it. So I'll just go ahead and get started. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. And again, thank you to Austell Community Task Force, the Mableton Improvement Coalition, and also the Powder Springs Task Force. And as was mentioned several times already, I just want to take just a few seconds to remember Mike Boyce. Mike Boyce, if you're not familiar, he is the former chairman of Cobb County, and he passed away unexpectedly this weekend. So if we could just take a few moments to remember him. Thank you for that. And we'll jump right into the presentation. So in 2021, it was a very interesting and very productive year, not just for District 4, but also all of Cobb County. There's, as you can imagine, a plethora, an abundance of things to cover, but with limited time that we have, I'm just going to pull out some topics that I believe that you guys would be most interested in. Obviously, all of us are always interested in those Splost dollars and to learn and find out how our tax dollars are being allocated. But we'll also talk about, I'll share information regarding CARES funds and ERA and where we are with respect to dispersing those funds. And also District 4, between Deidre and I, and Deidre's on the call. Thank you so much for joining us. And also thank you for everything that you do in supporting me and District 4. I really appreciate you having you by my side and joining me in this journey. But between the two of us, as well with the county and community collaboration, District 4 has kicked off several inaugural events, which we'll talk about as well. And of course, where would we be without zoning and development? And I'll also kind of touch on some of the challenges that we've had, not just in District 4, but also countywide. In 2022, we're already here looking ahead. What does that look like? What are some projects that are earmarked for the 2022 Splost? Also, we're going to talk a little bit about a public safety satellite center, which is also known as a mini precinct, but it sounds a little bit more welcoming to call it a public safety satellite center versus a precinct. It's just a play on words there. And also, as we move forward in 2022 and beyond and moving D forward, we need to possibly create a tax allocation district. I know that there have been several attempts for the community in certain areas to have a CID, and it's thrived in a lot of different areas. If you think about Cumberland, Cumberland has a CID, and so does Townsend Mall. But what we're attempting to do in our district, we can get it done a lot quicker with a TAD. And of course, the subject that we all love and give us heartburn. And in fact, it's this one category that is responsible probably for forming a lot of relationships within the district. So for that, I am grateful. So we'll just go ahead and get started. We'll start with our Department of Transportation and our Splost update. So what you see on the screen are basically some projects that have either completed or will get started and completed in 2021, and will get started in 2022. Now you'll note on the screen, and can you see my mouse? Oh, perfect. If you can see my mouse where it has pending final change order, you'll see that here on Hickson Concord Road in Mableton and also on Riverview. Basically, what that means is that either there is an adjustment on pricing or the contractor needs a little bit more time to complete the project. For these two items on Hickson Concord, we actually came in under budget, so we're really excited about that. And in fact, it was with Riverview, we saved quite a bit of money. That project was projected to be over 2 million, and we were 1.6, or we were 1 million under budget. So we're really excited to get those money back into the county's coffers. Also, Macklin Road, we have a project going on there, in Buckner Road. I've received several emails from residents that live along Buckner Road and quite candidly throughout the entire district. And sidewalks are desired. Sidewalks are desired as we become more of a pedestrian town. People are wanting to get out. People are wanting to walk. And once we get past COVID, I mean, that's going to definitely resonate among not just District 4, but throughout the entire county. But I'm really excited for Buckner Road, the Buckner Road sidewalk project. And it's going to be critical that we continue to put our best efforts, our best foot forward to get a stoplight there. And I want to commend Ray Thomas of MIC, who I know have been in constant contact with the county and also GDOT to get a street light there. So it's something we should definitely continue to march forward on, because the development is definitely going to happen on that corner. It just depends. It's just a question of what type of development is going to go there. And I know we have several people on the call tonight that are aware of the application that we have for that corner on Buckner and Veterans Memorial, which is across from the Publix, for those that may not be familiar with the street, but are familiar with the area. And we have another application for AutoZone. This is the third time that AutoZone have submitted that application. And the community, well, the first time the Board of Commissioners under the previous administration rejected the application, and the community pushed back. And I've had conversations with the representative of that application and shared the community's concerns. But they're here again, and that's okay. So we have a hearing before the Board of Commissioners has a hearing in February, and that's on the docket. So we'll see how that one pans out. The Mableton Parkway pedestrian improvement. So if anyone has driven down Mableton Parkway recently, you know that the first phase of the project is pretty much almost wrapped up. And on that side is a 5-foot, a 10-foot wide trail that runs from Factory Shoals all the way to Discovery Boulevard. And then on the east side of that same strip of land, we're going to have a trail. It'll be a multi-use trail. Now, it'll still be a sidewalk, concrete, but it'll have like the dash in between, so it won't be an asphalt trail. That is tremendous to have that asset there, because it will feed directly into what will be the Chattahoochee Chattahoochee Trail Riverhead. I'm sorry, the Chattahoochee Trailhead at Discovery Boulevard. So we're really excited about that, and that it will be, the projection is to have it completed by spring of 2023. So that's really not that far off. And just a couple of other items, some projects that are under design. There are several here in Austell. I mentioned the Chattahoochee River Trail just a short while ago. So we're really excited about that project. That is one of the items that's in the Splost, but we'll talk about Splost in just a little bit. And for the Chattahoochee River Trail, that is scheduled to begin construction in spring of 2022. And I also, if you guys are not receiving my email, please send an email to deidre.watts@cobbcounty.org, or you can go on cobbcounty.org to sign up, because it's in the newsletter that will have updates on projects throughout the district. So it's a great way for you to stay in touch and stay in tune with what's going on in your community. CARES funds. The county has received ERA1, Emergency Rental Assistance Funds, Phase 1 and 2. We are completely done with Phase 1 of the funds, and I'll share with you guys the numbers, but we're completely done with that. And we just have $1 million left out of ERA2. And that $1 million has been set aside for pending evictions. So the county has, in partnership with Judge Brendan Murphy, they are paying the landlords at the courts. And we have $1 million set aside for that. Just recently, we were contacted as a board, and we just passed this agenda item 2 days ago, but we were contacted by the Department of Community Affairs to assist them in dispersing their funds, because right now, Cobb County, we are out of funds, which it's very difficult to have to, share that with our constituents, but we've pretty much dispersed nearly $40 million in funding. So in a very short period of time. So we did a really good job there, but the urgency in getting the funds out, because if they're not dispersed by September of let's see, I have the date here. If they're not dispersed by September 30th, of this year, then those funds will be recaptured by the U.S. Treasury. So again, the Department of Community Affairs contacted the chair to say, hey, we need some help here. We passed the agenda item on Tuesday, and the governor signed off on the recommendation earlier today. The date is pending on when Cobb County will receive the funds from the Treasury. So right now we are in a holding pattern. So as soon as we find that information out, I'm sure Ross will have it on the county's website, and I'll also include it in my correspondence and my communication to the community. So this has been an issue with evictions, with affordable housing. It's been quite a challenge, and that's been one of the challenges in 2021, but I'll save that for the later slides so we can kind of stay on track. So just quickly, a couple of inaugural events. We had our career fair and tenant forum, which was fantastic. We had several employers there to include Cobb County. We had the sheriff's office, we had Cobb Police, water, etc. And there were several hires that were made right there on the spot. So we were very excited about that. We also had a tenant forum at the Board of Commissioners. We've had public comments where there was genuine concern with respect to the way the buildings are being kept up, with respect to funding to help with rental assistance. So we had a tenant forum, and we invited our partners, the Marietta Housing Authority, for example. Judge Murphy was there, and he he answered evictions right there at the forum. He had his legal aid team there, so it was very successful. And Deidre and I were really happy that we were able to get that information and bring it to the community. So they were able to have that under one roof. Also, Osborne community event. I'm not sure if we have any participants from the Milford Osborne community, but we will host an annual event for the children and for teenagers in that area. That is one of the areas that are where crime is a challenge. So I, along with apartment property managers and other stakeholders in the community, as well as our police partners, are just pulling together and banding together to figure out more productive ways in which we can kind of keep our youth on track. So we're very excited about that. And just as a sidebar with Osborne, one of the wins for us last year is that we were able to place 3 parcels under contract for a recreation center. And that recreation center has been an ask for the community, from my understanding, for the past 25 years. So it will be an assemblage of 3 parcels. Right now, it's currently under contract. Once the contract has been secured and we're done with our due diligence period, then we will bring the presentation along with Parks to the community, so we can start framing out what that recreation center would look like. And although it will be a rec center for all of Cobb County, but for the immediate residents in the area, we really want the feedback to see how that center can really support the community, the immediate community. And of course, we had our Path to Home Ownership program. If I have any of my vendors on the call this evening, thank you again so much for partnering with us. It will be an annual event. We are very excited about it. We had credit counselors, we had mortgage lenders, we had real estate brokers, the Department of Community Affairs was there. And I want to, and most of you probably know that I am a real estate broker, and home ownership is one of the ways that we can build wealth, that we can stabilize our families. So that's part of the reason we're doing this. But the other part is, I think sometimes, and even I found this in just selling real estate, a lot of times people may not realize how close they are to owning a home. It's not as far off as you might think that it is. So just look for those 3 events in 2022. And we're excited to have them. And I'm going to kind of do like a little speed dating thing now, because it looks like I'm down to 15 minutes. Okay, so zoning and development, just as a recap, in 2021, District 4 received 67 cases, 55 were approved, 10 were withdrawn, and 2 were denied. For the 2 that were denied, I know it was one on Queen Mill, and I can't think of the other. It escapes me right now. But in 2021, District 4 received the greatest amount of zoning applications. And what that essentially means is that the developers are like, hey, you know, we have this wonderful district over here where the southernmost part is very close to the city of Atlanta, is very close to the new Microsoft complex. We need to pay attention. Well, hey, we've been saying that for God knows how long now. But what I think is also happening is our adjacent municipality of Smyrna, they're becoming a little built out over there. So the developers are making their way down to South Cobb. So we are seeing an uptick in a lot of our zoning applications. And speaking of zoning, I just want to quickly touch on the boundaries of Powder Springs, because I often receive emails with development in Powder Springs, and it comes to me, and that's fine. But if there's development in the city limits of Powder Springs, then the Board of Commissioners, we have no control over that. That it's not our jurisdiction. That is solely Mayor Thurman and his team. What you see on your screen right now, although it's a little bunchy, is the city limits, the outline of the city of Powder Springs. If you visit Powder Springs website, you'll have a better picture of what those boundaries look like. Now, if you draw your attention to this area to the left, my mouse is not working, not sure if you can see my mouse, but there is a red arrow there. There is a red arrow there. That red arrow along Story Road, that represents an annexation request that we just received, and actually the Board of Commissioners approved on Tuesday. Originally, we rejected the request for annexation. And for those that are not familiar, annexation is when the city requests to annex parcels into their cities. So that was the request. The original request was denied because of the density, because there are also density guidelines that the city must follow as it relates to our intergovernmental agreement. But for Story Road, what the developer is proposing there is 117 lots, which will equal out to be 2.37 units per acre. And it will also have 20% of open space. Now, regarding a timeline, the Board of Commissioners, again, we just approved it on Tuesday. It will have to go back to the city. They need to have their hearings and do their piece on it. And then once they notify us that it's officially accepted into their annexation, then they can start with development. So that's for the city of Powder Springs. Also, as I touch on Powder Springs, the Meredith Park Adult Community, this is the area that is on Powder Springs Road near the Bojangles. There was quite a bit of community engagement involvement shared some years ago. This is a development of Prestwick and also the Marietta Housing Authority. And if Prestwick is sounding familiar to you guys, that's for good reason. Prestwick has the development on Riverview Road in Smyrna, where the Chattahoochee Coffee is, and the Chattahoochee River. And also Prestwick is the developer for the luxury flats in downtown Mableton, which I also have a slide. So in the interest of time, I'm just kind of going to click through these. This is the aerial view of the Meredith Park on Powder Springs Road. And I did get some updates from the developers to share with you guys. And the update on this one is that they're currently framing the building, which you can obviously see here. The original completion date was fourth quarter of 2022, but with weather and material delays, the date will be adjusted. So that is the latest update for that development from Meredith Park. The luxury residential flats in downtown Mableton, we are very excited about this development. It's going to breathe new life, I believe, into downtown Mableton, and it will also foster a downtown historic feel. So we're really excited about that. There are some buildings that will have 4 stories, and the 4-story building will also have retail space. If you see this lighted, and this is just a rendering, but it will be very close to what you see here. And we'll have retail space. There was a variance request for this development to increase the size of one of the buildings. And the reason that was submitted is so we can, or the developer can accommodate the commercial space on the main level. This is another view for the 3-story rendering of that development. And the update on that is that it is 90% done with the land disturbance permit design and the permitting process. They hope to submit the building permits in the next 60 days. Also, they're hoping to close on the land and break ground this summer and open the first building in the first half of 2023, obviously pending material and labor availability. And this location is across the street from the Kroger on Floyd Road in downtown Mableton. Okay, Bonaventure, this is a development that was approved in Austell, and this is off City View Road in Six Flags Parkway. It is near, it is behind, I think that's a Super 8 motel down the street where the Waffle House was once located, but it has since been torn down. So the update from that developer is that they've been working with county staff on a final site plan and expect the final site plan approval within the next 2 weeks. And they will submit architectural drawings for permit review shortly thereafter. They expect to break ground on the project in late April or May. Dominion Searles, the Magnolia development, I know that several people on this call, at least the host, attended the meeting. I think it was in December, that was delivered by the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority Chair Doug Stoner, as well as Dominion. So what you see to the left, and this is a 50-acre parcel of land on Riverside Parkway where the Magnolia Apartments once stood, but they have been torn down, I believe, 5 years ago. But what you are seeing on the left is what was submitted as a proposal for development. And where you see my cursor here, this is Riverside Parkway, and this is just to orient you. So this is Riverside Parkway here, and this is Factory Shoals here. So it will be a combination of senior housing and family, but it will be multifamily rentals. The developer is trying or attempting to secure federal financing for it. So it will be, the rent will be below market rate, and it would fall into the affordable housing category. This development would still need to come before the Board of Commissioners for approval. In fact, the update is that they're tweaking their plan and they have to bring it before me as the district commissioner. If it doesn't pass muster with me, then it won't even make it to the Board of Commissioners. So we'll see. And I've had subsequent conversations with the chair of the Redevelopment Authority, and I shared with him my concerns and some things that I'd like to see. So we will keep you guys posted on that as well. And it looks like I'm down to 6 minutes. Okay, so Greystar, this is a development, Greystar, this is a development near the Hobby Lobby Plaza on Austell Road and East-West Connector. And near the Home Depot. It's right across the street from the Home Depot. This is one of their renderings at Powers Ferry Road. And this is what we are looking at. So this is the area that's been cleared out. I think this is Home Depot right here. This is the Hobby Lobby Plaza. Okay. What we see in blue are townhouses. Now, all of these are going to be rentals, by the way. So this area, and I try to orient it so we can follow, the color coding. So for the blue, the townhomes are going to be here, and it has an expected delivery date of 2023. The yellow and pink are going to be right here, multifamily units with the clubhouse and exterior amenities, and they're expecting a delivery of summer of 2023. And finally, the green, which is here, is going to be multifamily with the delivery of 2023 as well. Hold on, where is, okay, here we go. So that one is moving along fine. I'm going to change the slide, but oh boy. Right here where you see my cursor hovering, that is the Burlington Coat Factory Plaza. Just hold that thought right there. So at the Burlington Coat Factory Plaza is going to be phase 2 of this development that I just showed you. Now, what this represents, the arrow and the circle here, and I'm not sure if you guys been to the Hobby Lobby Plaza, but they're pretty much almost done with redeveloping the plaza. But there will be a breezeway or courtyard that will take you from the parking lot through this area. And this circle here represents a part of these two buildings that were blasted out so that there is a courtyard there. There will be two restaurants on either side of the cutout. It looks fantastic. If you're over there, just drive through. What they're also proposing and what I have approved is that there will be a walkway from the apartments that will lead you from here to the street on East-West Connector. And there's some other development things that we're talking about for this plaza. Also, I have requested I requested a landscaping plan for that land, for the track that's next to the QT. It almost looks like a detention pond, but I'll keep you guys posted on that as well. So to the left is the Burlington Coat Factory. And again, that will be phase 2 of this development. So for the Burlington Coat Factory, what you're seeing on your screen now is a rendering of the development. What's denoted in red are spaces that will be reserved for commercial. So the type of zoning that was approved for this is a planned village community. And part of that, you have to have a certain percentage of space dedicated for commercial businesses. So there in those 3 spots, there will be restaurants there, and there are talks with some national brand in terms of the eateries and the coffee shops, but I was asked by the developer to kind of keep that close for right now. So that's what the Burlington Coat Factory is looking like. So Burlington, for my Burlington shoppers out there, they're looking, I'm not sure if I should share this, but I put it out there, so I will. They may move into the old Marshall's space at the shopping plaza next door, which, by the way, I drove by there recently, and there is an Uptown Cheapskate over there. And I kind of fought against Uptown Cheapskate at this development, at the Hobby Lobby with the redevelopment, because I didn't want to have anything new there with cheap in the title. But obviously I couldn't prevent them from moving to across the street, but that's fine, that's fine. Also, that's just a recap of some of the largest zoning applications that we received, and what I've made a commitment in doing, and I actually already reached out to those 5 that we had represented here in any future development, that I am provided a quarterly update so that I may share with the community. So those quarterly updates will be in my newsletter. For those that may not receive the newsletter, but if you attend our monthly zoning meetings, I'll also dedicate time probably in advance of the meeting just for those updates. But if you do not attend our zoning meetings, I strongly encourage you to do so. It's a monthly meeting that's hosted between myself and my planning commissioner, Michael Hughes, and it's on the 3rd Wednesday of every month. And at those meetings, we discuss the zoning cases that are heard for that month. And also we kind of gloss over and kind of quickly give a heads up on zoning cases for the following month. But it's a great way to keep your finger on the pulse as it relates to zoning, because what I find is that some of our frustration with zoning is not knowing what's happening. And then you look and then you have this building that's gone up. So it's a great way for me to bring this information to the community. A lot of times we're just not able to come to the PC hearings. I understand, because it's 9 o'clock in the morning. And also for the BOC zoning meetings are also 9 o'clock in the morning. And it can be very difficult to get there and share your opposition or support. But you can also send us an email if you are in opposition or if you are in support of a project, and your voices can also be heard that way. And I'm going to really kind of go through this really quickly because my time is up. Some of the challenges that I found, absent multifamily owners, and there's been a lot of challenges along Riverside Parkway with absent absent owners, but that's something that I am working on right now. So I'll spare you the details of that. And public safety is also an issue, particularly along the Riverside corridor. Our aging infrastructure, we have a lot of older subdivisions in the community. Around this time last year, I met with a community that was built in the 60s, and they shared some issues with me. I walked the community with them and they pointed some things out, and I'm like, this is a concern. And in September, there was some flooding over in East Cobb. So this is an item that definitely needs to be addressed, and it is on our radar as a county to correct our aging infrastructure. Reduction in staff, in county staff. We are very slim down at the county, which results in a lack of services, whether it's code enforcement. It may take code enforcement a little while to get out there because they're losing code enforcement officers. And part of the reason we're losing staff is because the county is just not competitive with respect to pay. We understand that we cannot compete, or we're just not going to be able to compete with the private sector. We understand that, and most government entities cannot, but we're at a point where we can't even really compete with the with other public sectors either. And our neglected businesses, we need to hold them accountable. And one of the things that I will formulate, and I'll share the information in my newsletter, is to create a business accountability task force. As I drive around the district and I'm constantly taking pictures and taking notes, et cetera, but I can't catch everything. And what I am fearful of is that there may be an issue in another part of the district that I may not frequent that regularly, and it's not being addressed. But obviously, I will see more of where I live because that's the road that I'm constantly traveling, going down to the Board of Commissioners building. But and part of the reason, again, I want to have that task force is because I don't want any area to feel neglected because I'm not aware of a situation. So there'll be some information coming soon on that. Also, litter and waste, we know that. I don't really need to spend much time on it, but I do want to share some stats with you as it relates to all of the districts. And District 4 leads the pack. In 2021, we collected, or there has been over 48,000 pounds of litter collected in District 4. And just a few other fun facts. Let's see, there are 122 Keep Cobb Beautiful Adopt the Mile countywide. And of that 122, District 4 has 56 of them. So that is really, really, really great. So 40% of the litter in 2021 came out of District 4. Oh gosh, goodness, Splost. Okay, Splost, I will refer you guys to the splost2022.org for a list of projects, but what you have to the left are the community impact projects, and to the right are DOT projects. But again, this is on the county's website. So please, I encourage you to, when you have an opportunity, to go on so you can kind of fully understand what we're doing there. But just as a snapshot in terms of money, Splost in the next 2 years, as you know, the Splost passed in November of 2022. Over the next 6 years, we will collect what's estimated at $750 million. And I highlighted transportation because that is the lion's share of it. There is a breakdown in this brochure, district by district, on how much funds are allocated, not necessarily to a district, but projects that fall within that district. So please go there. I mentioned public safety earlier along Riverside Parkway. Before I took the reins, there was efforts that were made for a satellite center or for a mini precinct. Well, there was some roadblocks there because there wasn't space available to rent. We are revisiting that. It has come up that perhaps we should build a precinct there. I'm not sure where I am with that. So if you guys want to share your opinion, please send me an email at monique.sheffield@cobbcounty.org. I just have some reservations there, but as always, I'm always open to hear opinions and recommendations and suggestions. But what I do know is that something has to be done. We're also right now, as a temporary measure, searching for space. I have our property, our real estate department, again, visiting areas along that strip for a satellite center, even if it's nothing more for us to lease space. But the challenge, again, is having space large enough for a holding cell, etc. Tax Allocation District. This is one of the items that I have on my calendar for 2022. And essentially, and again, I hate that this is rushed, so I really encourage you to educate yourself on this, and we'll have follow-up conversations. But just as an example for what a TAD or Tax Allocation District can do, to the left of the screen, you'll see of the two images is the Atlanta Beltline. And I'm not sure if how many of you have been down there, but it's a fantastic venue or place. And to the left is before in 2009, and to the right, after the tax allocation funds kicked in, that's what you have in 2012. So that's what we're looking to do with certain areas in the district. D4 annual spring cleaning. Last year, the photo on the bottom right, I participated in a community cleanup with the We Love You Foundation. It was a sight to see, a sea of blue shirts just cleaning up the community. So it really inspired me to the point where I want District 4, I plan to have District 4 have a community district-wide cleanup. And Deidre and I had a meeting earlier today with staff on putting those pieces together. I'm looking at maybe the first or second week in April. There'll be more information to come with that. I'm not going to share too many details at this point, but just save the date and find and look for information in the newsletter. And also our Cobb Chamber Citizens of the Year. From Austell, we had Malcolm Lewis, who's also the owner of the Cynical Coffee Shop, and he's also a pastor. So congratulations to him for all the work that he's done in Austell. And of course, Mableton owns Robin Meyer. Thank you so much. Robin is the chairwoman or former chairwoman of, chairwoman emeritus of Mableton Improvement Coalition, and she has been at it for ages, and we really appreciate all of the work that she puts in. And I personally thank her for always making herself available for my zoning questions, because she is a zoning expert. And I learned quite a bit from her, not just from the job. So I really appreciate you always making yourself available and keeping your eyes on development, not just in Mableton, but also in other areas of District 4, including Austell. So at this point, I'll open it up for questions.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Commissioner Sheffield. That was very informative, and thank you for taking the time to put together such a thorough set of slides and information for our listening audience.
Sure.
At this point, as indicated, we will be asking those questions that have been posed by you, members of the viewing public. And so I believe the first question to be asked will be done by Elliot.
Okay. Hey, Elliot.
Hey, Monique, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right, after that informative presentation, I ain't got no questions to ask.
I just hate that it was so rushed, but it's okay.
Okay.
And you know what? If I may add before I forget, if there's anyone on the call that want additional information about anything that I discussed this evening, please reach out to my office and I'll set aside some time to go over that with you. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. First question I got is, what are your thoughts about Habitat for Humanity's plans to build massive cheap housing in our district?
Well, I'll start by saying I wouldn't necessarily call it cheap. I don't know if cheap means material or if cheap means affordable housing. But, I am all for providing affordable housing, right? Because that's definitely an issue. It's become a nationwide issue. We had a habitat application towards the end of last year, which was approved, and I added a lot of conditions on it. My concern was that there's such a concentration of habitat homes in this area of Austell off Hillcrest, not far from the park. So while I am a proponent of affordable housing, and I love Habitat for Humanity, I have worked on Habitat for Humanity homes. I think it's great what they're doing, but it needs to be equitably distributed throughout the county and not concentrated in one area.
All right, thank you. Joel, you up.
All right. What is being done about trash cleanups and lawn maintenance on main roads in South Cobb, such as East-West Connector and Fontaine Road?
Trash, there we go with that again. Well, my proposal to the county is that we have a, thanks for taking that down. I would have just got all, okay. My proposal has been that we create like a sanitation division, because the county has grown way too large to rely on our Adopt-A-Mile partners and also our volunteers. But quite candidly, Joel, the money is just not in the county's coffers right now to do that. So unfortunately, we are left with our Adopt-A-Mile leaders as well as our other community leaders.
Okay, all right, well, thank you so much.
All right, Ms. Sheffield, so here's a question for you. Question says, why are we allowing so many new homes built in South Cobb? Are there any plans to update the infrastructure to match the growth?
Sure. Well, I'll start with saying that we can't prevent a homeowner from building on his or her property. The most we can do as a commissioner is add stipulations, but only to those applications that come before us. So if there is a zoning application that has been submitted and it fit the criteria of that zoning category. So for example, if you have an R20 lot that's 20,000 square feet, if you have a development that fits the setbacks for that particular development, there's no need to come before the Board of Commissioners or the Planning Commission. So a lot of times it is in the community's best interest to come before us, because that's where we're able to I guess, police it, so to speak. So we can really add stipulations to the development. The growth in the infrastructure, that's obviously a concern because we're dealing with infrastructure concerns right now. So my proposal is for the developers to contribute to the infrastructure. Right now, we have a development contribution for streetlights, and even in our most recent code amendments, they're changing that, or they're wanting to change it to a general fee. But we need to have our developers, I mean, they're here not to just develop subdivisions, but to also build communities. And in part, in building communities is helping communities sustain themselves. And one of the ways that we can have strong sustainability is through our infrastructure. Because at some point, if it's not taken care of, and we're seeing that in certain pockets now, I receive emails from people where you just see water just flowing down in their backyard. And, it's coming from their neighbor. A lot of times that's not something that the county can get involved in. It's really a neighbor on neighbor issue. But the bigger and the greater concern is a developer develop that land, whether it's the neighbor's fault or problem or not.
Thank you.
All right, next question from me. You might have answered this already when you try to go over your boundaries for the city of Powder Springs and unincorporated Cobb. But the question is, the safety improvements at Brownsville Road and C.H. James, that is a very dangerous intersection with frequent accidents.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm very familiar. When I lived in Powder Springs for 14 years, I often used that intersection. But yes, that is within the city limits of Powder Springs, but even further, CH James is a state route. So my recommendation is that you reach out to GDOT and also the city of Powder Springs to collaborate with GDOT.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, Commissioner, the most recent stakeholders share meeting report revealed a lack of green space in the area code 30126. Is there a plan to address this?
Yes, there is. Henderson Park, we received a master plan, I think it was maybe 2 years ago. There has been funds set aside for Henderson Park. I think it's just $100,000, which you really can't get too far with that. So that is going to be on my list of priorities in getting the funding for Henderson Park. And for those who are not familiar, it's on Veterans Memorial. We had a park bond for it. It's on Veterans Memorial near the Publix. We had a park bond for it, but we're not getting any movement on it at all. One of the other items that I am working on is on Hillcrest. There's an old fire station there off Hillcrest Road in Austell, and it's in close proximity to the Habitat homes that I spoke of a short while ago. Well, they're going to undergo a sidewalk project. And what I'd like to do is to tear down, and I've had conversations and meetings, and this is on not just my agenda, but also Parks agenda, to tear that building down and build a passive park there. Along that road of Hillcrest, we have our aging population. Those are people that have been in their homes for decades, and they've made an investment in their homes and in their communities. And, as we get older, it's very healthy that we're able to get out of the house. So that's my plan there. And for any other county asset that either we're not going to sell or that just needs to be torn down, then we need to make all of those green spaces.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Especially as we get post-COVID, people are going to want to get out, and we need to be able to have places for them to go
Sure.
recreationally.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Sheffield. Next question is, when will Cobb County move away from landfilling trash and toward waste to resource technology?
So Cobb County, we do not have landfills in Cobb County. Cobb, we utilize landfills of neighboring municipalities. I believe that Douglas County is one, or believe it or not, other states, but Cobb County does not have landfills. As far as technology, Cobb was just awarded, I believe last year or maybe 2 years ago, with their recycling program, which is the Hefty Energy Bag Program, where we collect, and I don't know if you guys have participated in it, but it's a great program where you recycle hard to recycle plastic, straws, and things of that nature. And those items can be used to make diesel fuel. So it's recyclable items. So diesel fuel, oil, wax, building blocks, etc. So it's not just dumping the trash, but it's, actually recycling it for other purposes. But to your original question, Cobb does not have a landfill.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. As a future Mableton resident, are there plans to develop along Veterans Memorial Highway near the new townhome condominiums?
On Veterans? Where is this community?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Let me see. As a future Mableton resident, are there plans to develop along Veterans Memorial Highway near the new townhome condominiums? I guess they're talking about somewhere close to Veterans Memorial where some new condominiums are being built.
Yeah, I'm not familiar, and if any of the panelists are familiar, but I'm not familiar with any on Veterans Memorial any townhomes, but to the base or the crux of the question, there's always a plan for development. There's always a plan for development. So yes.
All right. The next question is, Cobb is one of 48 U.S. counties with the highest number of new HIV cases. What efforts will be taken to help end the HIV epidemic?
It is an epidemic, and for whatever, well, not for whatever reason, but COVID seemed to have come along and backburnered some of the other emerging or some of the other pandemics. I know before COVID that Cobb Douglas Public Health worked feverishly on the HIV epidemic. We've had calls with. We have weekly calls, I believe it is weekly, there's so many calls with Cobb Douglas Public Health regarding the COVID pandemic, but there isn't any mention at all with HIV. But what I can do is reach out to Dr. Memark and her staff, and I can provide that update to you, Joel, so you can share in your MIC correspondence, and I'll do the same in my newsletter.
Thank you so very much.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner, next question is, are there still plans for Mableton Food Market on Mableton Parkway?
I'm not familiar with a food market on Mableton Parkway. Joel, are you familiar with that? I hadn't heard that one before.
I'm not familiar with it either. I don't know if it's something that's supposed to be coming, but that's the only thing that I can think of.
No, I'm not familiar with that at all.
All right.
Now, for the person that asked that question, if they're on the line, if you want to send me an email with specifics, I'll be more than happy to get that information to you.
All right, thank you. Next question. This is more of a statement than a question.
Okay.
Zone notices. It is difficult to distinguish and read zone signs posted. Can't tell if it's the county or city zoning issue.
Okay. Even though that wasn't a question, what I will say is in Cobb County, our zoning signs are yellow. In Powder Springs, they're also yellow. So my recommendation would be to be familiar with where your city boundaries are, and that will help you determine if it is a county posting or if it is a city posting. But also on the signs, I believe with the city of Powder Springs, it has city of Powder Springs on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. And I guess, is there a difference between like a red sign or the yellow sign? Is there?
It depends. With our zoning signs, the initial notices are yellow. The pink signs are for the zoning variances. So that's when you go before the Board of Zoning Appeals. Those are pink signs. I believe alcohol and liquor is also yellow. I'm not sure about the city's colors. I'm not sure what their colors are. It might be different in the city of Kennesaw versus the city of Austell. I'm not sure.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Well, as housing costs rise for both rental and purchased properties, what concrete steps are being taken to ensure that there will be affordable housing for residents?
And again, this one is a loaded one, and it definitely requires not just solutions on the county level, but also on a federal level as well. But there has been conversations at the county with the chair and others in economic development and ARC, which is the Atlanta Regional Commission, with respect to putting together plans for affordable housing. So all of the wrinkles have not been ironed out, but those are conversations that are definitely happening at the county level. And as soon as the chair is ready to present Once we gather our information and come up with viable solutions, then we will turn that over to our civic organizations. We'll post it on our website and keep the community abreast. But it is definitely an issue, and we understand that. But what I also like for people to understand is that the Board of Commissioners, we do not have control, we do not have autonomy, we do not have jurisdiction on how much a landlord will charge for rent. And I understand that people are very frustrated because they're paying a significant amount of rent these days, and the landlords are not delivering a product that's commensurate to what people are paying. So it's very frustrating, and I understand that frustration. So while I'm not in a position, while I'm not in a position to dictate to a landlord how much to charge, because this is a capitalistic society, so I cannot do that, there are other things that I can do, such as have code amendments, which I've had this conversation with staff, have code amendments with respect to fines and violations. Can we charge an impact fee to the property owners? What can we do to really get these guys to reinvest in their community? And for that, I will say it will require the county to get engaged, because the tenants have but so much power, right? They have powers by leaving, of course, but that's not always easy, or that's not always the answer for everyone. And it gets to a point where the property managers, where the owners are turning a deaf ear to our tenants. So it is incumbent upon the county to figure out solutions on the behalf of our tenants. And at the same time, just figure out and have a solid plan for our affordable housing crisis.
Well, thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
All right, Commissioner, I think you may have touched on this a little bit earlier, but the question is, how is the Splost money allocated?
Right. And again, that's where I would refer you to, I think, Cobb Splost2022.org. And if you recall from my earlier slide, it's a projection of $750 million over the next 6 years. And Cobb Cobb DOT will receive the lion's share of that. And with Cobb DOT, there are just a number of projects that fall within their purview. It's road realignments, it's road improvements, it's pavements, it's sidewalks, etc. So as you can imagine, DOT really gets the lion's share because of the number of projects across the county. But for more details on the projects that have been allocated for District 4, again, in some instances, you will see a dollar amount next to it, but then there are also projects for the county that also has a dollar amount. But again, you can see the full brochure at cobbsplost2022.org.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you touched on this, answered this question a couple of times in different ways. Has the county considered a proactive code enforcement to ensure homes are properly maintained?
Yeah, sure. And that's a conversation that continues to happen at the county, but unfortunately, with us being short-staffed and not really having funds to hire new employees, unfortunately, the county is not in a position to be proactive, which is very frustrating, because obviously, if we can be proactive, perhaps that would minimize the number of complaints that we have. It would reduce the number of times the county would have to go back out to the property, because the county will visit the property initially, give the homeowner or the business owner an opportunity to correct the infraction. Then they would need to go back out and check. Then there's the court process. So it's a very lengthy process, and it can be drastically reduced if we had the staff in place to do that, which unfortunately right now we do not.
All right, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner, what are your top 3 goals for District 4 in the year 2022? And
Sure.
what can the residents of the district do to assist you?
Sure. Before I answer that, I will just touch a little bit again on code enforcement, and that Deidre and I, from the very beginning, we just kind of took on the responsibility of just driving District 4 and noting those issues that are in violation of code, and we'll send it to Kathy. So we do have a proactive measure on our end between Deidre and I, just to kind of keep it on the radar, because my thought is if I'm driving past an issue, we can get it done a lot quicker with me taking a picture and sending it to code enforcement, rather than me reporting the issue to code enforcement and waiting for someone to come out, research it, etc. So Deidre and I are very vigilant in code enforcement, and in making sure that things are corrected and addressed as soon as possible if it comes to our attention. And what I will also share, if we send an issue to code enforcement, they are on it. But we're a county of 780,000 people, and I think we have maybe 10 to 12 code enforcement officers. So there's also been talk long-term to have officers dedicated to each district as we continue to grow. We actually need it now, but again, the funds are not there. But I just wanted to throw that in, that although the county isn't necessarily proactive, Deidre and I are. Okay, so the top 3 goals, of course, is development and sustainable development. We want businesses to feel at home here. We have some new businesses in the southernmost part of the district. We have Mooyah Burgers, which just opened by one of Mableton's residents. And we also have Orange Theory Fitness Center, also in the Publix Plaza off Veterans Memorial. But when we develop District 4, and this is what really makes me excited, because we're almost like a clean slate. And we're in a position now when we have the power to say, no, we don't necessarily want that there, rather than just taking whatever comes our way. And I'm not suggesting in any way that that's been the practice of the past. I'm just trying to make a point. So we are in a position where we can say, no, we're not going to do that. And we'll just simply wait for better development. So as we frame out development, we want to make sure that it's sustainable, that business, once they invest in our community, that they are here in the community. We want to make sure that with our development applications, whether it's residential, we hadn't received many commercial applications or any at all since I've been in office, but we want to make sure that we are getting what we want out of the developers. And it's just frustrating at times because, people seem to believe that the developers have the commissioners in their pockets. I oftentimes see that on social media, which, that's not the case, but, people just say things. I understand that, but there are just some things that we cannot prevent a developer from doing if they're meeting the guidelines and the criteria of that particular development. So development and sustainability is one. Improving our quality of life. There was a question earlier about green space. What are we doing about green space? Well, we're going to utilize county-owned property and if we tear down old buildings, let's replace it with some green space. With that, with the development, sustainable development, whether it's commercial and having the amenities that we like here in our district without having to go outside of the district, naturally that's going to call in density. Density is a word now that's become very unaccepting of people, but I want to remind people that fight against density, and there's no surprise that we've received a lot of applications for density lately. And the issue, or how do I say this? There is this belief that this current board goal is to urbanize all of Cobb County. I'm not sure where that started, but that's not the case. But the density, when I look back at how the county has grown over the years, I make the correlation with the timing of the density around the Braves Stadium. So with the Brave Stadium, that's when the density applications start to come in a little more, because you have that huge asset there. Companies want to be near that asset, so you have density that comes along with it. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, that density is not going to just remain near the battery. It's going to filter out. Okay, the other thing is improving out infrastructure, which I talked on earlier. Regarding the county or regarding the residents helping, is making your voices heard, and you guys are doing a fantastic job in that, whether you're sending an email, whether you are down at the Board of Commissioners meeting, whether you're responding and you're attending the meetings that are hosted by our civic organizations tonight. Just be present, just engage in the process, because I'll share with you guys, if you're not engaging in the process, you're not likely to be considered in the result of that process, right? So I'm not saying that you won't be considered at all. Obviously you will, because part of my job is to ensure that you will. But on a larger scale, if you're not voicing your opinion, it's not going to be heard. And I'll leave that with this. A great example is a non-scientific study we had with Cobb DOT as it relates to our comprehensive plan. We had 630 participants for this non-scientific survey, 620. The majority of them voted against the transit option. Oh, I don't need to take transit. Transit is not for me. So that sampling concluded that it's not a need for it in the district. The 630 people primarily were in East Cobb. Do we take that sample and say, okay, well, there's really not a need for transit here? Absolutely not, because we know better than to do that. But the point that I'm making is engage. When you receive newsletters from the county or from the chair or whomever it might be, and there's a link for a survey, please, I ask of you, just take a few minutes and fill that out. You have no idea how important it is for you to do that and how that helps us to move the county and particularly our district forward.
Well, thank you so very much, Commissioner. I do appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we may have time for one question, and then we have to bring the evening to a conclusion, much to our chagrin.
Okay.
Joel, I think that was the last one that we had time for.
Yeah, that was the last one. But before I turn it over, I just want to thank everyone, all you guys, for what you do. And what was mentioned at the top of the hour with our civic organizations, Austell Community Task Force, Mableton Improvement Coalition, the Powder Springs Task Force, and our newly formed Milford Osborne Community Task Force. I'm not sure if any of those residents are on the call, but we did add another one into the fold last year. I thank you guys for everything that you do, because you're dedicating your time. And I mean, you know, what people see, they see this one half hour event, but there's so much planning that goes behind it, and coordinating schedules. And even, you know, when we're out picking up litter, it's just a lot that goes into it. And I really want the community to have a huge appreciation for what you guys do. But again, I just wanted to thank you as community stakeholders for the opportunity to be with you this evening. And I also thank all of our residents that are out there for joining us tonight. I thank you for your contributions to the community, and no action is too large or too small. So whether you lead one of our civic organizations or you simply pick up a piece of litter, which, by the way, kind of catapult me here to where I am now, but that's another story. But even if you just simply pick up a piece of litter, your unselfish acts are invaluable. And collectively, those acts will move thee forward. Thank you so much for the privilege of your time, and I will turn it back over to you, Joel.
All right, wonderful. Again, thank you so much, Commissioner Sheffield, for taking time out and for your service as a public servant for all of us here in District 4. It was a very informative presentation, and certainly you had a lot of very thoughtful responses to the questions being posed tonight. So thank you for doing that. Obviously, we were not able to get to all the questions, as we mentioned earlier. That's just a function of time. But we thank you for everyone who participated. And if there's any information that you didn't see or hear about this evening, you're welcome to email us, and we can get that information to the commissioner and take care of that going forward. We do want to mention to people that tonight you've been able to participate both by way of Zoom as well as by participating in Facebook streaming. However, there's another option after this evening, which is to say that you can go to look at our YouTube channel and review and see the same presentation there afterwards. So we want to reference that for you and give you that option as well. If you want to share that with your friends and your neighbors that may have missed this evening's presentation. Again, I want to thank the commissioner for her time. Certainly want to thank my partners at the Powder Springs Community Task Force and Austell Community Task Force for their leadership and their civic mindedness. That's why we all do this work together. I think I probably can safely speak for us when I say that don't know of any civic group that suffers from too many volunteers. That's really how we get things done that we get to do in our areas every single week and every single month of every year. That's how we do that. Again, just want to reference that if you have any questions about things that are specific to Mapleton, you're always welcome to go to our website, www.mapleton.org, or our Facebook page, where you can get some resources and information there as well. I believe you saw just a second ago a flyer about an event that we have coming up, which is the Taste of Mapleton event. I think that was shown just a second ago, and you heard our chair, Ray Thomas, speak about it earlier. Yep, there it is. And that has the website that gets more information about the Taste of Mapleton event, which will be a wonderful, wonderful event for pulling the community together. Certainly want to to give our partners at the Powder Springs Community Task Force a chance to say some closing remarks to the audience.
Well, again, I just want to thank you, Commissioner Sheffield. I want to thank my partners, Mick and Austell, for doing this, putting this together to show unity inside the community. Also, I want to echo on what Joel said. I'm sorry that we didn't get the opportunity to answer all the questions. But again, you can reach out to us on Facebook or Powder Springs Community Task Force Facebooks, and we can get the questions over to Commissioner Sheffield. But she also shared her email address to get the questions to her. So again, we apologize for the time. We want to be mindful and respect people's time to be on this thing. And again, I just want to look forward to more partnerships with civic communities here in District 4 as we continue to move forward. Thank you, Commissioner Sheffield, for your time.
My pleasure.
And I'll jump in here. I know we're up against the clock. So first and foremost, thank you, Commissioner Sheffield, for spending time with us this evening. Thank you to Joel and Elliot for the partnership with Austell Community Task Force. Again, we understand that your job is definitely, it's not the most glamorous job. It's a hard job, and we appreciate you sacrificing yourself and time with your family to do that. And also sacrificing the time this evening to be peppered with questions from us representing our respective areas in the community. So we appreciate that. Again, I'll shamelessly plug for Austell Community Task Force. As you can see, we try to work as a conduit, and we work as a team with other organizations, but we work as a conduit with Commissioner Sheffield, because as she said, if you're not actively participating, then there's a chance that you can get left out of major decisions. So again, Austell Community Task Force, we meet on the first Tuesday of every month. So if you're interested in finding out more information, allow yourself the opportunity to get plugged in and do a little bit more research on the different chairs or committees that we have within Austell Community Task Force, because as you see, we're continuing to have the ear of the commissioner to make sure that District 4 is represented and growing in the right direction. So thank you again, and hopefully we'll see some of you guys getting plugged into these different organizations depending on where you are. Thanks.
All right, and just one final word. Want to thank the folks who work so hard as well. Chandrika Williams, who's our IT guru and expert, and also Michelle Bradley, who's our expert for marketing, and this wonderful flyer you see on the screen here. They're so instrumental in making these events successful. So thank you for your work. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you who've been participating by way of either Zoom or Facebook this evening. You could have chosen to spend your time any other way, but you chose to be here and engaged in part of the civic discussion, and we very much appreciate that. With that, we will send you out into the evening. Oh,
Joe, before you do that, may I just add two things?
Certainly.
All right, just a couple of things regarding the questions, because I really want to get to all of them. If you guys would send it to me, I'll be more than happy to type out my answers and send that to you in a PDF.
Okay.
I don't know how you would plan to get it out to your database, but I'll do that so that person can have those answers available to them. But one other thing I do want to mention, which this will happen before we will probably connect again, and that's regarding the commission district maps. So there was a proposed map submitted by Eric Allen, who is the chair of the Cobb delegation. That's the map that the Board of Commissioners approved on Tuesday. It passed 3-2 down party lines. But my understanding is that there will be another map that's presented. The Board of Commissioners have not received or had an opportunity to view this revised map. And my understanding also is that not all of the Cobb delegation had an opportunity to review this revised map. So I just want people to understand that what passed on Tuesday with the Board of Commissioners may not necessarily be the final commission map, but I'll also share that the plan or the intent behind the plan with Eric Allen is to keep all of the cities together. So we're not splitting Mableton into 2 districts. Now, the way the map is now that Eric Allen submitted, that the Board of Commissioners voted on Tuesday, District 4, I would lose 2 precincts over in Smyrna, but I pick up 2 precincts that are currently in District 1 in Marietta along Powder Springs. It's not likely that that map will go through, obviously, because they're not the majority party. So we just have to wait and see what happens with the map. But I just wanted to quickly touch on that because I know that we've been kind of back and forth and people are concerned and have questions regarding the maps.
That was one of the questions.
Okay. Okay, well, somebody got their question answered.
That's right. You can check that one off.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Thank you.
fantastic. But what I'll do is I'll still type in the answers for all of the questions, just so we can have for future reference. If someone needs a copy, we can just shoot it over to them.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for that very kind offer. Appreciate that.
Certainly.
And again, thank you everyone who's been participating this evening by watching and viewing. And we wish you a good evening and be safe out there. And we'll look forward to gathering again together with the next forum. Thank you so much.
Let's move D forward. D forward. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.